All right, in advance of the big match versus Australia tomorrow, questions for Jill.
Jill, you talk often about last year kind of being the skeleton this year being
Yeah.
connected this year. What does that look like in the midfield as far as what you've seen, as far as which combinations bring out the best in each other right now?
Yeah, I think that's kind of echoey. I think we've had obviously with JJ getting back, I mean, I think it's type of personnel in there. You want players that have good brains and good feet. We still have some limitations on minutes with certain players. But I think, players, you're talking about specific players, what kind of players do you want in there? Both. Yeah, I mean, I think, you take players like a Mo and you take players like Rose who can turn the pocket, who can separate in there. That's one profile of the midfielder, and obviously a good final passer from higher up. And then also the defensive side, a ball-winning player that can change the point and have good range in their passing to help build. So, I think we've got a pretty diverse group in that, and I think JJ and Lynn's, Sammy, Ali, they are players that are excellent in reading the game, passing, winning balls, distributing, great in the air. And then I think the other two's qualities is just being able to turn there in tight spaces. I think when eventually it plays itself out in terms of what kind of players you want in there, I think you want a mix. I don't think you can have the same profile in there for all three players. So I think finding that balance. I think we talk a lot about subgroups and, looking at how perhaps, the other day a Press and a Lindsay and Sonnet play together. We look at those subgroups. So it's not just really the relationship they have to the midfielders, it's also, who plays well on that left side. Do we want a left-footed player out there on the left side, or do we want them on this side coming in? So there's a lot of thought that goes into it, but I think where we are at this point is looking at players and starting to see who plays well with each other. Again, I still think with limitations on minutes, Mo's got limitations and Rose does. I think that inhibits a little bit maybe what we potentially could see. But I think that's, Lindsay, I've challenged Lindsay if she's going to be a 10 to score goals, and she's done that in the league. So I think we have a really good group, a good mix in there, and I think as we get through this tournament, it is about starting to find those players that work well in those subgroups. I mean, we just got Tobin back and seeing how she plays. I think it's important for me to have outside backs that can combine, that can activate our forwards with combination play with the passing game. So looking at those relationships will be something, again, once Kelly gets back, we start to look and explore.
Jill, could you talk a little about Alyssa, her progression and goal this year, and what you've seen, what you'd like to see more of, and will she play tomorrow night at start?
Yeah, I mean, Alyssa's getting the 3 games in the tournament. She has, she's a keeper that we've really invested in terms of getting experience. I think she's grown in that. I think just her when you got not even a younger player, a player that hadn't played a lot, to play against these good games, good teams, you get a lot of questions asked, and I think we've exposed her to that more and more. And so now I think her distribution with her hands is phenomenal. I think her feet have gotten much better. Her choices, her selection, her confidence on the ball, I think all those things have improved. So yeah, I mean, I think right now she's competitive in the air, and ultimately what comes down for a goalkeeper is that decision-making piece. And I think, you can put a goalkeeper in there with 300 caps. Sometimes, decisions can be spot on and sometimes they can be off. But I think just getting her the experience, I think she's warranted and deserved that.
Where is Kelly O'Hara, and what do you expect her to do? She's progressing. I think there's a lot of medical stuff, in terms of what we can and can't say about her. But I definitely think she's progressing, and, we certainly miss her. But I'm hopeful that she will, I'm hopeful to have her back by World Cup qualifiers, or be available for World Cup qualifiers. I hope. I know you talked about Alyssa, but is there any scenario in this tournament where you see other action pairs, or are you finishing time?
No, I committed for these 3 games to give them to Alyssa. The keepers know that. So, sure. If there's a certain scenario where, we need to play one, I have confidence in the keepers. But right now, Alyssa's getting the 3 stars.
You feel you can get into
versatile fullback from either player who's in strong training?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think, Crystal is just a very versatile player. I think she's done very well in there. I thought she did well the other night. I think her, time and release, I think, Sonet's back in, slightly different profile. I think when we play teams where perhaps we don't rotate, encouraging her to get forward more. But, and Shorty's sort of back in and has that versatility to play central and wide. So, I think right now Crystal has done a fantastic job, and I think Sonet's back in, and areas of growth for sure in both of them. But I think they've done well.
Jill, what's it been like for you to work with and get to know Megan Rapinoe over the years, and what impact has she had on the sport with her success, but also just in society, just an impact on society as a whole with all she kind of uses her platform for?
Yeah, I mean, Megan is an ambassador. On so many levels, for women, for gay women, an advocate for people. I think the impact she's had, certainly on this program. I mean, I still talk about the goal in 2015, which she, in 2011. I think she's been a performer in big games. I think she's been, if not the most consistent, one of the most consistent players in the league. So she's giving it both for her country and her club, which I think is fantastic. Within the environment, she's an incredibly smart woman that can can crack a room up, but also can bring some levity to a group of players. So I think she offers so much to us. But I mean, obviously she's very, very special on the field, which is kind of a given. But I think she's a player that recognizes, I think at times, as much as the game is really important to her, that there's also a life outside the game, and embraces that very much as well.
A good example of how celebrity can be used in a positive way away from where it all begins.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these players have have the ability to support different things, but I think Megan is confident who she is, and confident in expressing herself and supporting causes she feels very strongly about, and I think that's part of what makes her unique and special, for sure.
In the last game between shifting the formation and subs, you had 7 players in the midfield over the course of the game. What are you looking for against Australia with your midfield?
Yeah, I think partly when you go into a tournament like this, you talk about managing a game and managing a tournament. I think part of it was making sure we had legs. So I think the 4-1, I think that was the time when we started to make some decisions. So I think that was prime reason. In here, obviously, we want to win the game. I think we've gotten some rest of the players that needed it, or potentially not having them play 90 minutes like someone like Mo. So I think we should be fresh and ready to go. Australia puts a lot of pressure on you defensively, makes it a transition game, which obviously for midfielders it's a lot of work. We've got to get up and put pressure, and then they've got to be able to recover. So it's a lot of shifting laterally and a lot of shifting vertically. But I think they're in a good spot.
Good.
Alex's 3 goals last game, and a lot of goals in the last few games. How do you see that she has been progressing as the year has gone on for you guys?
Yeah, I think Alex has, she came into the year, with a good base, good base physically, in a good place mentally. And I think that has been, kind of a real base for her in terms of her performances. I think she's, I know that obviously Orlando's had different players in and out, so I know that team's not been at full tilt, but, I watch her in the league games and just how hard she works and how, how much she gives to that environment as well, which I think is fantastic. I think Alex is someone who's realized that, every moment she has to work on a game, to improve her game, to take something out of what she's doing, I think she's embraced that, and shown great maturity in that. As far as goal scoring, yeah, I mean, she's hot in terms of, finding the back of the net, and that's what you want in a goal scorer, that streak. I think she'd be the first to say and compliment the players around her, with great service. We've got world-class players, to provide the ball for her, but, her poise, the variety with which she's finishing is tremendous.
Go, Jim.
Between this and She Believes, you've seen 7 of the Felicity play into this, 7 of the top teams, top challengers. Do you feel like this is maybe more wide open going into 2019 than ever before, even compared to 4 years ago in terms of who could challenge, Australia being maybe
Yeah, I mean, I think just not even the teams we played, I think you've just seen a shift in that, with different teams. Obviously Holland's emergence in Euros and, Spain are crushing it in qualifying. Italy's already qualified. So I think there's a lot of teams, a lot of programs that will be not just vying to win games in the group, but vying to get out of the group. So I think it is. I think it's a natural progression for our sport that it should be more and more competitive every year. Adding more teams last tournament, I think was great. I look at how tight the qualifying is over in Europe. I mean, it's amazing. So, yeah, I think it's a sign of our sport. I still think in a 7-game tournament, part of it is going to be obviously good fortune, but part of it is depth. And making sure you've got healthy players, but obviously the depth and then the experience of having played in those tough games. I think that's what we're prepping for. But in terms of quality teams, Australia, Japan won their qualifying, Brazil won theirs. So, I think it's great. It's fantastic for us to play these different teams, but also to play teams that are going to potentially challenge us in certain areas and that we need to evolve in, for sure.
One more? Yeah, go ahead. We're just having a combo.
Do you see a little bit of Australia, maybe a young version of it, or younger team? You look at you guys in Australia, how they play and their sort of.
Yeah, both very athletic teams. I think, Australia's probably had the benefit of being together for so long. They are they're very structured in how they play, but play with, a tremendous intensity. When you talk about teams winning, world championships or in Olympics, I always talk about those programs, those teams have to have the trifecta, and that's, that is part mentality, it's the athleticism piece, and it's also the technique. And I think that, teams having players playing in different leagues all over the world and get exposure to that, I think is great for these teams. But I certainly think, Australia you can see they have a desire, they have a work ethic about them that makes them, a formidable opponent.
Last one, go ahead.
SB Nation Soccer posted an interview with LGBTQ fans of the team, and some of them said that they were, quote, they felt lied to, they felt disappointed. What would you say to LGBTQ fans who have been critical of the Federation and your choices, calling and shit-making over the past couple of weeks?
Lied to in what sense? What do you mean?
The Federation, their rainbow numbers last month, and then 1 month, a couple weeks later, there might someone who's made, comments that they disagree with very strongly.
Yeah, I think that's, I can't speak for the Federation, I can speak for me. I think what I tried, to do was to look at a situation, look at a player based on soccer. I think I looked at, I have to make challenging decisions. Sometimes it's cutting players, it's taking them off contract. And so I have to have a very clear compass to me in making decisions about soccer. I think she had done well in the league. I think we have a world-class team in terms of understanding different viewpoints, expressions. I have a daughter, and I think sometimes being setting an example of being tolerant and understanding that people have different opinions doesn't necessarily mean I agree with those opinions, but that people can have different opinions and looking at this purely on soccer. So that's me. I'm not talking for the Federation, I'm talking for me, and that's what my decision was based on.
Great. Thanks, everybody.